Nothing is more expensive than bad information. Know the source. OneRadioNetwork.com.
Okay, very pleasant good afternoon to you. A little special program here this afternoon, generally on in the morning when we stream live, but we wanted to check in with Charles Nenner and take a look at these markets and what he sees. And Mr. Nenner is founded and he's president of the Charles Nenner Research Center, provided independent market research to people all over the world, banks, hedge funds, brokerage companies, families, individuals. He has a little newsletter thing that we'll tell you about that you can get every day in your inbox. Mr. Nenner used to work in the belly of the beast, Goldman Sachs from New York from 2001 and 2008. He also worked exclusively for Goldman Sachs in London, where he served as a technical analyst for Goldman Sachs Fixed Income Trading Group from 98 to 2001. From 97 to 98, he was the head of trading research at Robobank International. So worked for in Tel Aviv, and just a big blob of experience in international trading, and he was also financial consultant with Merrill Lynch out of its Amsterdam office from 85 to 87. Charles Nenner, thanks for being here. Well, you've been right there in the belly of the beast, Mr. Nenner, for a long time.
And in the meantime, I had my own firm, which I sold, and then in 1988, I retired for 10 years.
So for 10 years, but now you just look at the markets and predict those guys, right?
Right. I couldn't help it. But then in the end, I came back and made a career again.
Uh-huh. Now, if I understand from our first couple conversations, you work with graphs and trends and what do you call it? Cycles, all kinds of pretty geeky things. Could you see what was coming with the market going from 30,000 Dow to where it is now? I mean, was it possible that you would see that coming?
We had the exact high already for 4 months. We were written what the high was for the year. And I think there was 33.89 on the S&P, and that was the exact high. We also explained how we calculated. There's nothing special about it. You can calculate it. I don't understand why everybody misses that, but one of the reasons they miss it is because people like me, will come on television, and they're not being challenged. Show us how you get there. Every idiot, you don't know his CV. I mean, you don't know who he is. He will finish high school, can give an opinion on television, and the anchors are so used to the fact that nobody knows anything. They don't even say, "Okay, interesting. Show me how you come to the conclusion."
They never say that.
So because of that, they don't ask me come to the conclusion. Show me, because I'm going to show them.
That's funny. Well, that's what I like to do, is ask those kind of questions, because our listeners are thinking, "Come on, this can't even be possible." Are you saying that you were really at 33,000 with your things that you set out and your charts and your graphs showed that?
Shall I say? I will tell you something very simple. I will give you 5%. That was already convincing. You know about trend channels, right?
About what, sir?
A trend channel. The trend channel, a market goes up, and you can draw a line on the bottoms, and you can draw a line on the top, and you have a trend channel.
Right.
Now, usually, when it hits the top of the channel, it goes sideways or down. It hits it on the bottom, and it goes up again.
Okay.
Now, the longer such a trend is going on, the more difficult it is to break. Now, there are two interesting trend lines. One is, what becomes maybe a bit too complicated, is an exponential chart of the Dow Jones back to 1900. And from there, if you draw a line from the top of 1929 to 67 to 2000, then it hit exactly the top of the line what my target was. Not so difficult, right? And so And let me give you one more. If we decide that the market can go up within these two lines, then you would assume, like we said before, that when it hits the line on the top, it hesitates a little bit. Now, I don't want to quote Shakespeare, but woe and behold, if you would have started taking a look at the market going up from 2009, drawing a line to all the bottoms, drawing a line to all the tops, then, like I published, you would have come exactly to the right number on the right day, because that's where it hit the top. On top of that, my cycle tops. When a cycle tops, market goes down, and when a cycle bottoms, then market goes up. On top of that, the cycle tops. On top of that, all technicals were breaking down, which nobody talked about. On top of that, I have a chart that shows that 4% of insiders were bullish, and 96% of small investors were bullish. I wrote, I never saw something like that. So if you take everything together, the picture becomes very clear. It's just a little bit of homework that you have to do.
Well, that sounds pretty simple. But again, I guess the big question is, I'm going to dig into it a little bit later about how these lines on either side, the upside, the downside, could actually predict a coronavirus. But I think last time I talked to you, you can kind of explain how that's even possible. But let's go just to some of the nuts and bolts, Mr. Nenner, now. So did I see a headline where you were predicting, did I see the word depression, or was that a fake quote? Was that a fake quote?
No, I wrote that already a year ago. It seemed so logical to me because we came to the end of an expansion and into a corona thing I will go into a minute because it might be interesting. The GDP was very low. Usually when you end an expansion, then you start with a GDP that is 6%, 5%. You can go down to 1%. But if you have GDP of 1.5%, then you go below zero. Now, on top of that, if you have interest rates that are so low, there's nothing more you can do to really help the economy, if you really could. So it was clear to me that we're going to be in a very, very big recession. And I called it a depression because I have a downside price target on the Dow Jones already for years of 5,000. So there will be a tough recession if we go to 5,000.
A 5,000 Dow?
Oh, correct, yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
When does your little magic chart say that's going to happen?
In 2022. It's not, listen, it was 5,000 in the Clinton era in 1990s. There was a world, it was not that terrible. So I wouldn't get too depressed about it.
Well, I mean, if our listeners have most of their gold, so to speak, in 401ks and equities, that could get them pretty depressed.
Yeah.
So
I just want to say, of course, so what you're going to ask me is, you didn't know about the virus.
Well, I'm going to get there. I'm going to get there soon, but let's stay here for a second. A little meat and potatoes. Okay. So meat and potatoes. So what do you see before November, which would be potentially a predictive of who wins this election, right? With the Dow, maybe.
What did you say?
I guess it's possible that the Dow is going to be a big factor in who people vote for. People do that, right? They vote their pocketbooks.
Yeah, but in this case, if you want to be reasonable, this one is not Trump's fault. So even if the economy drops that I don't think they're going to blame. How can you make the connection that they're going to blame him for? Well, he maybe made a small mistake. That's why we turned down a little bit more than usual. But it's ridiculous. So
sure.
So I don't think it's a point. But it's right in the middle of a very interesting cycle because not only do we get a little turnaround, or we have already a little turnaround in Dow Jones, but there's certain ways that these viruses develop. And I find it interesting that even, if you do cycles, I start finishing my cycle work now about the virus, but you don't hear anybody about it. It's very, very, very strange. Nobody can say how long the first phase of other virus attacks paramedics were. It's just amazing. Nobody's even interested to look. Maybe there's a correlation
between.
Now, for our well, first of all, do you know there's a pretty clear cycle between all the big paramedics of the last 500-600 years?
All the big, all the big pandemics. Yes, some kind of a pattern.
So here we go with cycles again. If you want to know if something's going to happen, you have to take the past and project it in the future.
Mm-hmm.
For one reason or the other, it's very hard for people to understand that maybe, the way things are going in the past will go to the future. So there's a lot that I'm working on for the virus. It's just a different way of thinking. And that's why I wanted to make this point about the virus and the stock market.
Okay.
Things are, the cause and result are opposite of what people think. That comes in quantum physics already, and people who understand it say, we don't really understand, but if I do the math, it turns out to be like that. So there was this gentleman that right now escaped my name that wrote a book, and he brought in the world the black swan.
Black swan.
For him, the black swan was something that cannot be predicted.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I already thought at that time it was a big ego thing because maybe you can predict it, maybe other people can predict it. But let's assume he's right. So you can't predict it. So then actually what you have to do is stop everybody from talking what they think is going to lead to this big swan situation. Because what my system does is, my system says, I'm not interested in why, I'm interested in when. So we knew when the market top was there based on the cycle, that was when. We knew that it's a time for the market to turn around. And then something is going to happen, always, and we're just going to look what happens, but we're not trying to analyze why a market could turn down. We just want to know that it turns down. So that's why half virus, half not virus, it worked out pretty nicely.
So it's almost like the dog wagging the tail. If these cycles and human nature and past and present and everything, it's almost a spiritual thing. If it's going to happen, you're saying you can see it and you don't even care why, whatever.
Well, that's a philosophy. You can spend your life figuring out why and never get anywhere, but I had to be practical.
Uh-huh.
I had a family, so I had to go to Goldman Sachs. And the why, they had 100,000 of people discussing why. There were too many around that they said when, so that was my career.
When? So when folks had your newsletter 4 months ago, or whenever you predicted a 33,000 Dow for the top, do you recommend that people kind of sell now and just get on the sidelines, or is that part of your business, or you just tell them the numbers?
No, we were at zero stocks.
I'm sorry, say that again.
We were at zero stocks invested, so we told everybody sell everything, go to zero stocks, because I was sure it was going to crash. But to play it, I said that already in 2007, people tried to play the futures with options, whatever. It goes so volatile you can do it. So that's already in this time I said to everybody, zero stocks, no stocks anymore.
So there are people saying that this is a buying opportunity if Trump's reelected. You're back up there. Happy days are here again. That's what Mr. Mnuchin is saying today. Your charts and graphs don't show that.
I guess that's what you wanted to say, right?
Oh yeah, of course. He just makes it up like everybody else, right?
No, of course that's what you say.
Yeah.
Well, if you hold to my theory, then you say whatever presidents do, whatever the Federal Reserve does, doesn't make a difference. Otherwise, I couldn't predict anything, right? I don't come and say, well, it didn't work out because the Fed president said this and Trump had paid in his flag, whatever. We never do that. So actually, it's unchangeable. So what can you do? Tell people, say, well, after summer comes winter, after winter comes summer, and then, winter comes, you can buy a winter coat. You can't change it. So you can adapt yourself a little bit to it. So it doesn't matter if Trump is going to be elected. By the way, I thought the top would come because Bernie Sanders probably would look good, or who knows what happens. I also never thought there would be a virus. I was waiting for something to happen. So these things happen. Now, the interesting thing is the warming of the climate, which I have been saying very carefully because people get upset, that it's close to the end. We're going to get colder now. And lo and behold, if this is really continuing, then we already see that there are much less gases, and it will be very good for the world if we have a big depression. Then you might say, well, okay, so you couldn't have known that this. No, but the world system takes care of itself, and that's why something had to happen when it gets too hot over here. It's just an interesting point to follow.
Yes, I understand. It's going to do what it's going to do. It's kind of baked into the cake on, if you will, a spiritual or philosophical level, humanity as a whole, their karma or their state of consciousness, if you will. Is that too geeky for you?
No, but you don't know who you're talking to. When I give a seminar, then at the end it says, guys, if you don't lock me up, already gained something. Of course, that's how it goes. Of course, even especially if big masses and billions of dollars are involved, there is no free choice. Everything neutralizes each other, even if you don't believe in a higher spiritual being. So you can do two things in trying to get rich in these markets. There is free choice or there's no free choice. If there's free choice, you have nothing to study. If things don't move at random and there's no free choice, then you'd have to spend some time and study what other stock markets did before you start investing.
Charles Nenner is with us. Charles, can you stick around a few minutes? I want to do a couple commercials and pay some bills. Okay.
I send you mine.
You said you got plenty, right? Hold on a second. Previously with cardiologist Dr. Joel Kahn, 35 years experience in cardiology.
On your commercial break, you hit a hot button because I'm a giant fan of infrared sauna and the cardiac benefits.
Tell us about why you like these saunas for the heart. What does it do?
In Japan, it's a traditional therapy of heart disease to even sick heart patients to sit for 15 or 20 minutes in an infrared sauna, then lie down and rest and hydrate for about half an hour. They call it WAON, W-A-O-N. It means soothing heat. And they've done research studies, like 30 of them in humans. Anti-ages your arteries and improves the strength of your heart, and it may actually prolong survival in sick heart patients. Anybody can just, again, go to the internet, read about infrared sauna heart disease, or put my name there because I've written many articles about it. Now there's data coming out of Sweden and Finland because they've published some amazing data, the number of times a week you're in a sauna, number of minutes each time. You can just track out how long you're going to live. So very powerful therapy by being in, my favorite is an infrared sauna.
There's so many good things. Somebody just sent me another study done out there. I guess we're out in that East European area where Charles Nenner is, and boy, they've been doing saunas like since the beginning of time and just for a long time, and excellent way to detoxify. They're strengthen your heart, as this past guest just said, and with the heat shock proteins. They've actually done really cool experiments where you can, check this out, you can test the heavy metals coming out of the urine and the feces. They just do the urine, and so there's so much mercury, so much whatever coming out. The body excretes just normally because the body is doing it, what it does for a living and staying alive. And then you do the sauna for 30 minutes and you can do the urine test again, and more heavy metals come out of the urine. Now that's cool. That tells you that not only with the sweat are you going to get the good stuff, but also with out of the urine excreting through the pee, and I suspect through the feces, but I've never seen people digging through poop. Anyway, if you'd like to get the sauna, this is a great one, $1,150. It's a off-the-record price. We can't put it in print, but if you just email me, we'll hook you up, and no matter anywhere in the world. Strange thing, we cannot ship them to Germany. And you're going to have to ask Miss Merkel why that is. I don't know. Every place else we've shipped them. We shipped one to Australia a few days ago, a listener in Australia. Just email me to get the good price, patrick@oneradionetwork.com. Whoops. Sorry, wrong button. I got it. Hey, you guys, you dudes. We recently talked to Daniel Vitalis about testosterone.
So many men today are reaching an age where they begin something we call andropause, and this is the male equivalent of menopause. So we know women go through menopause, but less understood in the mainstream is the idea that men go through andropause. And so they hit a certain age, but men start to really drop off in their hormone production. So what a lot of people are using is drug forms of hormones. And as always, when you extract a drug and you give it to somebody, you create more imbalance. The drug is found usually in nature, but it's found with a suite of other substances that support its metabolism and keep our bodies healthy. So one of the medicines on our landscape that can be incredibly useful for this is the pollen from pine trees, because it helps to increase those anabolic hormones in the male body and helps to keep a male whose hormones have naturally started to drop up.
Thanks, Daniel. When you click on Surthrival through our website, One Radio Network, you'll see a couple of choices. The 4 Ps has some different herbs and a little more kick in your giddy up, and then the regular gold pine pollen is there for you on any Surthrival link on oneradionetwork.com.
We talk about your health, wealth, and well-being on oneradionetwork.com.
We're very grateful for Mr. Nenner to come on the show, Charles Nenner. We didn't have any kind of a connection except his cell phone, and we don't normally let people do that. But I said, no, I want to talk to him, so we're letting you. You just don't have internet there today, hey, Charles?
No, did I hear you say that you know how to pee metals? That's a whole
Oh yeah, I know. You could just pee out gold,
So let's go. What are we doing?
That's right. What are we doing? So speaking of gold, we have an email here. Well, I think the number is somewhere in the neighborhood of, that's what we're hearing, Charles Nenner, $6 trillion will be created by the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, loaned to we the people in the Treasury. So they're going to increase the bonded debt by $6 trillion. And someday it's got to inflate the monetary system. So do your little charts and graphs see gold? Do you have any read on that?
Yeah, we have been bullish since the cycle bottomed in 2011. I'm talking about a longer-term cycle.
Uh-huh.
That cycle is up to 2026. So that's still substantial. Our first upside target is 2,500. Actually, our first upside target doesn't mean for the moment there's another one. It just means that is the price target we have, but we find it a bit strange that we can see a bull market for another 5-6 years and only get to 2,500.
Right.
But that's what the price target is.
So if you were going to be in Vegas and make a bet, that's what you'd bet on that 2,500 gold in whatever in 5 years.
Yeah, that's a good bet, but the problem is that it goes to so many up and downs.
Yeah.
That's why I tell people, take a look how we do it on our research. If you go to Charles Nenner Research Center, you can have a subscription for free for a while and study. It's very, very, very insightful. Because gold makes moves of $200 up and $200 down. So in the end, we'll get 2,500. But who is there? I mean, people are going to be thrown out of that trade because of the big moves. But if you have a stomach, then you stay till 2,500.
What about silver?
Yeah, all the time I look, and silver, I don't see it catching up with gold, especially not outperforming. I have no clue why. It has to go at some point until the bull market top of 2026. But for the moment, it seems nobody wants it.
You're not talking about actually in dollar figures, silver getting to 2,000 possibly someday?
No. Well, I don't know.
Or are you just talking about the percentage of gold and silver percentage?
Yeah, the percentage.
Okay.
So, usually at the end of a bull market, silver outperforms gold.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to know when to be in gold. You have to actually know when to be in gold mines and then change it to gold. and then at the end change it to silver. So that's what I mean. But silver is so underperforming. So this bull market has a long time to run before silver is going to be outperformed.
So if you're just long-term gold with coins or bricks under your bed or something, you're probably going to be okay and be a happy person 5 or 10 years from now. Probably.
Well, but you have to be there in time.
Yeah.
I mean, if the whole thing comes crashing down because the bull market is over, then you have to do something.
What do you mean? You know, that term, the whole thing comes crashing down. Do you think that's possible with the Fed being able to just create unlimited amounts of money and loan it to the government?
Well, here we go. I mean, if I am not an expert more than other people, that's what I said at Goldman Sachs also. I do what I do. And my repeat is always, cycles do it. There's nothing you can change. Now, if you really look at the long financial history, let me give you one interesting number. I started to be very carefully in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the first time the market crashed, we were also out. Why? Because the year with the 7 is the end of a bull market. So it was 2017. Now, if you go back 10 years, you know where you are. Year with the 7, right? 2007. If you go before that 10 years, you are at the Asia crisis in 97, 98. If you go before that 7 years, the year with the 7, you get to 87.
The big one, right? The big one.
Okay, what's interesting, you can go much further. 1907.
Panic of 1907.
30,
yeah.
1937. What do we see over here? When a year ends with a 7, it's the end, and you have to be very careful with your equities. Now, can you ask me why? Nobody has a clue why. So if you ask me why, what will happen, let's say, to Trump and to the economy, whatever, nope, nobody knows why. It's just a pattern you can't change. So as crazy as it looks like, if you have the insight to know that there is a bull market and at the end of the year with the 7 changing to 8, you have to go in cash. The two things you can do is it's such a nonsense, I don't want to deal with it. They say, listen, who cares, as long as it works.
Yeah, as long as it works. Well, I think an argument can be made that everything is energy and numbers have energy, and the numerology thing, there's something to it, and obviously, kind of, you've shown that. What was it? What was going on? Well, we almost missed it, though, in 1929 instead of 1927, right?
Right. So that's a whole interesting story. That's why it came crashing down, because when something tops, it has two bottoms. And if the top is late, then it has to come down fast because it has to hit bottom in time. So usually it catches up. So even if you go into the 1800s, the year with the 7 works perfectly. And the only one that missed was 1927, and it was 1929.
1929, yeah. Wow.
If you find it interesting, if you want one more, the major war cycle is 100 years.
100-year war cycle. Oh.
The 100 years, I mean, the many, but if you Google, then you see that because I said, we're getting in a war zone, internally and externally, because it's the second decade of the new century. And then you go back 100 years, and then you already go into world wars, and then you go to 1800s in Europe, in 1700s. So if you Google, it's very interesting from the year 0, every 100, let me exactly tell what it looks like. In the second decade of a new century is always a war, a big war. Now, of course, there's spiritually, and the one who created the world has something put in there. Why? But what I said is we have no clue, and we just have to know. And I wish that leaders knew the history and believed in cycles, because a lot of things become clear, and you look at it from a different perspective.
Mm-hmm. So are you saying when you read stories like I read today, Charles Nenner, the IMF says they're going to liquidate a lot of euros and whatever they print just to keep things going in the Fed. We know it's going to be a big thing. Do you find it interesting? Does that affect the way what you predict at all, or do you just stick with the math and the cycles and everything, your work?
Well, don't forget I was trained as a psychiatrist for a couple of years.
Oh,
so
you
I find
were?
it interesting. Yeah. So I was searching, but that was too tiring for me. She said, let me get a chair. So I said, why don't you do psychiatry? Then you can sit. So that was a good idea. So I'm more interested in how they get to certain ideas than, the market is care of itself. But I personally, because of that, find it interesting to understand their reasoning. So I definitely, find it a sign of the time how people reason these days.
Mm-hmm. Here's an email from Ed. He's in Cleveland, Ohio. How does Mr. Nenner suggest getting into gold? Physical coin, mining stocks, GLD, SLV, futures, or something else? And for what estimated period of time? So I think you've covered the kind of time which you think is gold. Do you have any preference? Do you talk to your subscribers about ways to get into gold?
No, I tell them which way they can do. And there's ETFs, GLD, that you can buy as a stock. You don't have to go into futures. And for the rest, Americans know more than Europeans about how to get physical gold or gold coins, whatever, but whatever people feel comfortable with. It doesn't matter. The price goes up in the same ratio.
How did you do with oil and your now you send out a little missive to all of your subscribers, right?
For people who have the intraday service, during the day we tell them where the S&P is going, even when the cycle stops, because they're very short-term cycles. So we can say the S&P tops at 2 o'clock and not at 30 and not at 3 o'clock. We know even that. So it's very profitable. So that's an extra service we have to show you even that during the day the cycles work perfectly.
Even during the day you can see at the time.
Right. So then always a news item comes out exactly when it happens. And the question is there any connection or not? On first sight it seems there's a connection. But how did the cycle know that something's going to happen like that? So it's a very philosophical, interesting issue we deal with.
It is. It takes a bit of faith and a bit of open-mindedness to understand your work.
Yeah, but we know it for a long time. Look, we know that Joseph knew there were 7 good years and 7 bad years. Right? So
pretty basic stuff. Right?
No, but I will tell you a more interesting thing is,
okay.
Joseph had some complaints when he sat in prison. And because of that, the Bible said he had to sit 2 years more. God decided he has to be the two more years.
Uh-huh.
And then we know he met the butler and he met this, and the butler says there's this guy sitting there in jail, and then the king says, bring him over here. And that happened exactly when those 2 years that he had to sit there were finished. So it could have been that the walls would have broken down. It could have been liberated. What I say is that anything can happen. You don't know. You just know exactly when it's going to happen.
So if you're right about stocks and folks are in their 401ks.
Oh, you forgot me. I forgot about the crude. So when the crude was
the crude. I'm sorry. I missed the crude too. Yeah. What about this $20 crude? What's that about? Well,
when the crude was at 69, we went short for the first target of 36. People thought we were crazy. But we got to 36, and when we got to 36, we changed our, I hope you're sitting down, the price down to $4.90.
Whoa. So you think it's going down there?
So that will be a major deflation, and, there's going to be a big economic problem. The problem for people is to work all their lives.
Yeah.
How do you get around? You don't get any interest in the bank. You don't want to be in stocks. The bonds are at the top. They can only come down. What are you going to do? You don't get anything.
Can you predict, does your chart show when they get $4 oil?
I think we're going back a little bit up. We can go back to the 30s. And then the cycle tops again, I think, in half a year, we could be there.
Oh, so it's going to top out somewhere like mid-30s and then go back down and maybe to 4.
Yeah, starting this week, we're looking to buy some oil because the cycle is bottoming.
Oh, you'll buy some calls, some oil futures.
Oh, whatever. That's
Whatever.
only for traders who want to do that.
Yeah.
That advice.
Yeah.
What I mean is that it should turn around now and go a little bit back up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to answer this question if you don't want to, but I'm kind of interested. Do you take your Charles Nenner money out of your bank account and bet day trade and make money?
I just have to be careful.
Yeah, I know. So if you can't answer, don't worry about it.
No, but why would I?
Well, why wouldn't you?
Well, why would I go to sleep for 1 hour? Or why actually should I sleep? Should I spend some time sleeping? Maybe I should never sleep in my life. I mean, why wouldn't you?
Okay, I got it. Finally, I was a little slow on the draw there, Charles. Sorry. Yeah.
And the other thing is, I'm getting close to 70 years old. So once, give me a break. There has to be a time from when I grew up. My mother says you have. It's almost finished.
You're just a kid. 70? You're just a kid. Wow. I mean, if that's right, I mean, $4 oil, that would be, I mean, if you look at the throwback from that, would be a big deal, wouldn't it, economically for the world?
Yeah, but thank God it's not $4 oil, it's $4.90.
Yeah, thanks for that. You're a card, Charles. Boy, it's $4.90, no problem. Man, oh man, so you're really talking like it's time to hold on to your bootstraps here, and it could get pretty challenging.
And also do you do diligence in which bank you should keep money?
Oh, well,
because it's a big problem that has to be looked into, because the banks are not as great as they look. So, but how do you do that? I mean, I don't even know how to do that.
I don't know.
Because everybody's fooling around with the book, so what do you know?
We've had some people, opinions that we trust, who taught me a lot about the financial world. Andrew Goss, he's not with us anymore, always suggested the bigger banks, they were maybe a better chance because they actually, big players and owners of the Federal Reserve, and they're going to always take care of themselves, too big to fail kind of thing. But I don't know.
Yeah, I think at a certain moment, it really gets bad. The Federal Reserve really doesn't know what to do.
No, they don't know what's going on, really.
The government that gives out some nice checks over now in the United States.
Yeah.
I mean, that's nice for present, but what are you going to do with the rest of the year if this continues? And by the way, just so I give my advice here, even if you don't ask me. So it looks like that in May, the worst could be over with this virus because you talked about the elections, until October, November, and then it should become even worse than it is now. That's the problem. So just when everybody relaxes, it's going to attack much more.
Whoa. You mean like a second wave of this corona, whatever it is?
A second wave.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Well, there's a whole lot of forces there's a whole lot of forces that don't want this man to be president.
Yeah. But there's no free choice, so it doesn't matter. I think he's doing okay.
I think so too. What else are you going to do? I mean, come on,
Yeah, but I mean, okay, in a crisis situation is already enough to be reelected. That's what history teaches us.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So if you're on a game show and you had to come up with an answer, you think Trump's going to win in November?
I think he's going to. I mean, I don't understand how he's not going to win in November.
Mm-hmm.
But I never get any real arguments except of what he said, what he didn't say, what he meant, how terrible it is. I'm from Amsterdam. I don't know exactly. I look at what the guy does and what he say. Did he say it the right way, wrong way? My English is not good enough to know that. So maybe I look a little bit more neutral on that.
Yeah, I understand. But if he uses a corona as a cover for the market, which he put a lot of his gold into, right, into his victory, he kept mentioning the market, that showing the economy. if he gets the corona as a pass for that, I suspect there'd be a good chance he'll get reelected. I mean, I don't know if there's that many lefty socialists out there, but I guess they could rally the troops.
Well, they always pop up whenever you don't expect them.
What's that?
When you don't expect it to happen, they always pop up. I mean, it's an interesting development and how it slowed itself down. You know, here I go from a cycle perspective, because I look what happens when liberals win, and I look where Republicans win, and where interest rates are in that cycle, et cetera, et cetera. So I find it interesting, but based on the cycle, it's totally clear last time that Trump would win. And I'm not updated, but if we talk next time, I can probably tell you if the cycle says he's going to win again or not.
Okay. Well, we will have a next time if you do us the honor of having you come on. I think it's just fascinating work what you do, and I've seen your track record. I've looked at it over the years, and I tell you what, I don't know how you do it, but well, whatever. So tell folks, how could they become like a subscriber, and what are your services?
Well, we have different services, but the simple service, you go to Charles Nenner Research Center, and there you sign in, and I think it's 1 or 2 months for free, at least one. I think 2 months for free. Get the explanatory videos, and then if you believe what's going on there, then you just have to check every time that the letter comes out, which is Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sundays, what really happened in the market the next couple of days in order to see if the facts are correct and our system works. And then if you like it, since the trial will finish, then I'm sorry, I think you have to pay a small amount. I don't know what.
I'm sorry.
But usually everybody makes it back.
I'm sorry,
now,
you have to pay a little bit.
Yeah, but this goes up to, of course, firms like, which I can't mention, but the big brokerage firms, the hedge funds, they're in a different class. They get different information, and they pay much more. They can say, I want to buy IBM. Can you build a cycle and tell me when it's time to buy IBM and at what level? Because the people who do their homework, they know they want to buy IBM. If they want to buy it at 83 or 81, they have no clue. So we do the work, and it doesn't pay to sit on IBM if nothing happens for a while. So we tell them, not yet, wait till the cycle bothers, and then you get in there. So we have different services, and then we have the intraday service that you find amazing, that we can tell you during the day at which hour the market's going up or down, and how high it will go and how low it will go. We do it on the bond market, on the crude market, on the gas market. I'm just enthusiastic about it because for years I tried to show to people that things don't move at random. You can get much better results if you take that in consideration. So I try to prove with enthusiasm still that things have an order in that. And if you know the order, you can predict the future.
Well done. Is the main website, I see financialsense.com. That's you as well, right?
No, that's not me.
Well,
no.
Oh, well, okay. How come they got your stuff all over there? They stole you. What's your main website?
Charles Nenner Research Center.
Charles Nenner Research
Center.com.
The whole thing? Charles Nenner Research.
I'm not even sure.
Okay. I'll put it. Well, we'll find it. I'll put it in there. You don't even sure.
Yeah.
All right, sir. Before we go, what's happening? You're in the Netherlands as far as the whole corona, whatever this thing is, as far as movement, food availability. Just give us a quick sketch so we can get an idea.
Well, food is still available. I myself, with a family, I have stored, I think, enough food for 4 or 5 months. Bought extra freezers because I think it's going to last longer. And I'm, almost 70, so here and there some problems. So I have to be careful not to get it. It's getting more locked down and more locked down, and I don't know why they do it from the beginning. First it was okay, you can go out and have 1.5 meter difference. Then we don't want to see you in the roads in general. Want you to stay at home. And the more people die, the more strict they become. I guess that's humankind, so it becomes. I'm sure that soon nobody goes out of the house even to do groceries or
Yeah.
But it's becomes worse still. That's interesting.
Yeah.
1,000 people died. You wake up, another 1,000 people died in Italy. Not that many in Amsterdam yet, but they don't have any beds left, so it's a big mess over here.
So, with all the places in the world that you've lived and have the probably could live anywhere you want, why there?
Because I'm born here.
That's you're born there. Right. That's family.
Yeah, and I went to school over here and have my house over here.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also not a free choice if you believe my philosophy.
That's right. If you believe in karma. Yeah. Actually, I just pulled up charlesnenner.com. That gets you right there. charlesnenner.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you see how bad I am in marketing?
I can tell you're not the marketing.
People.
Yeah.
Yeah, people have the talent to develop something, and not good marketers.
That's right.
They can't sell themselves.
All right, Charles. I know it's getting late there. Thanks a lot for being here, and we will keep in touch. And I appreciate you taking some time, Charles Nenner.
Okay. Be well. Be healthy. First of all.
Thank you, sir. Same to you.
Bye.
Bye. May the blessings be. Wow. Interesting fellow. I think he's onto something, but it's just me. Okay, so we're going to talk to Isadora Laker. She's into German New Medicine, and she's a fascinating lady. And she's got this whole thing about the spiritual, philosophical components of the chronoviral thing, and we're going to talk to her tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Charles, if you're still there and wanted to hang on for a second, we can. And I will see all of you tomorrow at 9 o'clock about the coronavirus and the spiritual aspects and how we created this little pumpkin and what it's doing to the body and why it does it at a certain place in the body, which is totally fascinating. And that's tomorrow with German New Medicine lady Isadora Laker at 9 o'clock tomorrow. I love you all very much. Thanks for being here, and may the blessings be.
We are listener supported. One Radio Network.